Hello everyone, today we'll be talking about the cards that I think you should be running that maybe you don't even know about. Just a couple of disclaimers. First off, I'm a bit sick, so my voice is slightly hoarser than usual. Secondly, the information for the popularity of the cards is EDHREC, which may not be representative of every single Commander game ever. Also, underrated does not mean must include in every deck. It may just mean that there's a disparity between where they are now and where I believe they should be. Without further ado, let's get into the video. A sorcery. Put your whole library onto the battlefield. What if I told you that this card is currently in print for over half a decade? No, I'm not talking about Enter the Infinite after you generate infinite mana. No, this card is not in blue, or black, or really any of the colors you'd usually associate with this effect. This card is green, and it is only included in under 3,000 Commander decks on EDHREC. Avacyn Restored was the set released on the 4th of May 2012, over a full year before Commander Arsenal was released, but its cards would become mainstays in the format. Yeah, when looking back at it like this set gave us some incredible cards. Some a bit too incredible, in fact. So it's actually no wonder that this card went unnoticed and unused for quite some time in Commander, slowly rising and rising in price, surging forwards. Primal Surge is a card that you may or may not know about. It allows you to essentially win the game for the low cost of not having any instants or sorceries in your deck. It reads, exile the top card of your library. If it's a permanent card, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you do, repeat this process. This is a staple card in Ruric Thar decks, and a fringe use card for Animar decks. Still, I'm surprised I've seen it so little, especially with the frequency of effects like Omniscience in blue, though that may just be more indicative of my playgroup and local area than anything else. It seems like this is the type of card that is a win con for many decks. It's a card that's been on my mind a lot since the release of Nikya of the Old Ways, and after recently recommending it to my friend who has a permanent only Vivictus deck, I thought I'd make a video talking about it and other Dark Horse cards. Ever since Masters 25, where both Ruric Thar and Animar were reprinted, the card has spiked in price, and I see no reason for it to begin to decrease. If this card is not something you're already aware of, I do think it's a fringe case, but it's certainly something I believe should be more present in people's minds when building decks like Muldrotha or Maieal. As an additional note, this is more of an honourable mention than anything else. It's not like a super under the radar card, but I thought it'd be good to mention it here. Lurking Predators is a great way of getting to cheat some huge things in for value. If your playgroup isn't super stacked with enchantment removal, it's a great include. Even if it is, it's a great include regardless. The worst case scenario is, if it's removed instantly, you get to cheat in something off their cast. This next card has grown to be a staple in almost any Blink deck with white in it, which is pretty much all of them. But I think it has greater applications beyond just Blink decks and is actually great across the board. That being said, it is one of the more recently published cards I've chosen, so perhaps it just hasn't had time to get the notoriety it deserves outside of Blink decks. This card is the very definition of versatile. You can use it to rescue your creatures, eliminate blockers, or even just to get additional value from ETBs, all at instant speed. Eldrazi Displacer is a 3-mana Eldrazi. Its cost includes 1 white, but it also has Devoid, so it has no inherent colour to the card. It reads, pay 2 generic mana and 1 colourless to exile target creature and then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. As I stated previously, the versatility of this card is what really makes it amazing. Which is why I was a little shocked to discover that it's only really run in Blink decks like Brago, Rune, Afara. In Commander, we're always running Mana Rocks, so you'll have your colourless, or even just value lands often have colourless as the colour they tap for. So, in my opinion, Eldrazi Displacer can be an insane source of value for you. Even if you're getting attacked, you can bounce one of the attackers, making things easier for you, or you can declare a blocker, exile it before damage, and return it for whatever ETB it has. Eldrazi Displacer has some serious potential in any deck with white in it and any decent number of ETBs. But the worst case scenario is it can act as a Pay-Zavith. My next underrated or dark horse card is a personal favourite of mine. Well, I suppose this list is full of personal favourites, but I am a huge fan of going wide and token decks, and this card is perfect in those sort of decks. I first discovered it when building my deck for Najeela, the Blade Blossom, as it synergizes amazingly well with her ability. Wait a second. It's an Avacyn Restored card too? Holy crap, that set is packed with commander value. The card I'm referring to is Druid's Repository. Since I discovered it, I've been putting it in almost all my decks that want to shoot out creatures, and I'm struggling to find a reason not to include it in basically any green aggro-y decks. This effect obviously goes well with Najeela, since if you can keep 5 creatures around, you go infinite pretty quick. In my Granwalled Radha deck, it offers some wonderful redundancy for her effect, and if only Krenko were Gruul. I think this card is likely to be undervalued because people don't like having to rely on your creatures attacking to get the ramp. This is one of the least versatile cards on the list for this reason, but I view this card more as an outright win condition. If you're on turn 5 and have a decent amount of creatures, it'll ramp you to Craterhoof for the next turn, or can proc your Aggravated Assault, or just get you enough mana to pump out a big green idiot post-combat. Either way, I think that more people should have Druid's Repository on their radar whilst it's still a low price. The next card is one that has made some of the most interesting board states and play situations I've ever played in. Cat Pre-Constructed Deck. Arabo is in command zone. Fleecemane Lion and some other cat is on the battlefield. There's also some equipment on the battlefield, but they hadn't had the mana to pay the equip cost, so they pass. Next player. Play Dismiss into Dream. Pass turn. Dismiss into Dream reads, each creature your opponents control is an illusion in addition to its other types, and has, when this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. Meaning, if you have any way of targeting your opponent's creatures, it causes them to sacrifice that creature. The cat precon sits there and begins to realize something horrible. Arabo's ability, it's not a May. The player stares at their table at their useless equipment and doesn't have anything they can play. They pass the combat. They have no more enchantment removal and will lose a cat each turn to the sacrifice. They can't even attach the equipment because it would target the creature. Now this is an extreme example, but it demonstrates the upper echelons of Dismiss into Dream's usefulness. This card is actually one of my girlfriend's favourites to play. This effect is so powerful because people fail to realise how frequent targeting effects are and the value in shutting down all of them. Equip Lightning Greaves? Okay, sack your creature. Tap Kessig Wolfrun to give... Oh. Untap target... Oh. Now this can hose some decks and completely leave others untouched. And it's incredibly open to removal at any time, so I do understand why people are scared to run it. Dumping 7 mana into an enchantment just to watch it get removed is sad, but the game states it can create are so fun and interesting that I will at least still consider it for any deck with a lot of targeting effects. Oh, and this card in a Derevi token-based strategy is one of the most frustrating experiences in the game. Run enchantment removal, kids. This card is another one that I think should be included in more decks. Right now I'm only running at 1, but that's because I took my rune deck apart. It's Aid from the Cowl. This is another card where if you have a lot of permanents in your library, it can generate you some insane value throughout the game. Have you got a sacrifice outlet, or just want to be swinging around a lot of creatures and don't care if they die? Well, this is a card that can get you something off the top of your library onto the battlefield for free. It's like a mini Primal Surge for half the mana cost. Other than Blink decks, this is especially good in decks like Vivictus, Mirror, and Muldrotha, things that want you to be having a lot of creatures or permanents to be cycling through the graveyard or leaving the battlefield. This card will generate you some crazy value if left alive for more than a turn. I don't have much else to say about Aid from the Cowl. It's a pretty new card, having just rotated out of Standard, so I think that's a possible contributor to its scarcity. And a lot of the things I said about Primal Surge also applies here, both positively and negatively, but Still, this card is very good, and for 25 cents I think it's definitely worth a second look for including in your decks. In 2017, the Commander decks experimented with trying out Mirror of the Forebears, which didn't really work out as well as I and many others may have hoped. That may have been because it was sabotaged by the release of a just superior card a month earlier. In Commander, generally speaking, the things we look for in our cards are versatility, being good in all different states of the board, winning and losing. Our favourite removal is the type that targets all things. So, what is better than a card that can just copy one subtype of creature? Well, it's a card that can become a copy of an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land. Jeez, the only thing missing is Planeswalker. Mirage Mirror is a 3-mana artifact that for 2 mana can become a copy of any of the previously mentioned things. Meaning, in Commander, it's far more valuable because it's far more flexible, allowing us to copy a great number of things. You can turn your opponent's advantage into your own. Your opponent plays an Elesh Norn, now you have an Elesh Norn, virtually wiping all of the other players. Consecrated Sphinx? You get a Consecrated Sphinx. Mirari's Wake? And God forbid anybody plays a Dark Depths. I know I've been harping on a lot about the value of versatility in Commander, but in a format where you can go from playing a super aggressive Infect deck 1 minute to trying to last out against the mill plan, it's an extremely important aspect that we need to consider with every single card we include in our decks. And that's why I think Mirage Mirror is just a really solid card for any state of the board. Alright, I think I'm going to be showing my colours a bit too much with this next one. We've already had 3 green cards in the list, and now I guess it's time for a 4th. One that is remarkably similar to 2 of the others. Maybe I just love these effects, but cheating creatures into play for little to no mana seems so high value that I'm shocked that these cards are in so few decks. Wait, 612 decks? I mean, I know it has downsides, but how is Hunting Grounds only in 612 decks on EDHREC? Hunting Grounds is a 2-mana enchantment with no abilities, unless you have 7 cards in graveyard. That's my... Jesus, I'm getting sick. This is likely why most decks do not run it. However, upon reaching 7 cards, it reads, whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may put a creature from your hand into play. Now this may be dependent on your personal meta, but if you ever get board wiped in a game, it's likely you're going to hit Threshold almost immediately. And if you have any way of getting creatures into your hand, most likely by drawing them, then this card is amazing. If you have the Threshold, the value you can get in rebuilding from a Cyclonic Rift is great, because everybody else is casting their spells, and you just get to replay all your creatures for free. And here it is. For my last pick of Dark Horse cards that are secretly good in Commander, we've got an Avacyn Restored Booster Box, everybody! Get it while it's still under $300 million. Seriously, I'm just going to have a list of EDH playables from Avacyn scroll on by while I give the outro speech. Thank you everybody for watching. If you'd be so kind as to give this video a like if you feel it deserves one, and subscribe if you enjoy Commander related content. I've had loads of positive feedback thus far, and I'm very glad so many of you have stuck around. Please comment below with your own Dark Horse underrated cards, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Wow, they're still not finished scrolling.